Handling and controlling form elements in Angular is one of the most powerful features in this framework. You can choose between template-driven or reactive forms and easily validate and save your inputs. But what if you have a custom element like a star rating component or a knob component? Controlling these kind of custom elements are not being handled out of the box, and usually developers come up with a hacky way to implement the logic around them. Also, what if you want to break your complex form into more child components? Now your form elements are custom components as well, and you can't just add formControlName to them and expect it to work. That's why we have a ControlValueAccessor. So if you have a custom element that you would like to connect to your form, you have to make use of ControlValueAccessor to make the element compatible with the Angular Forms API. Doing so will enable the element to be connected using the ng model template-driven forms or form control in reactive forms.
Code with Sloba.
Here we have a very basic form with a first name input and the last name input. Also, what you can see is that we are using reactive forms to control these inputs, as we are using formControlName attributes. And in our TS file, you can see that we have initialized a new form group with two inputs, which we just saw in the HTML file. Now, let's imagine that we have a form with dozens of components, and we want to break it down into smaller, more manageable pieces. In our case, let's move the last name input into the custom component, and let's see how we can connect it with the parent form. Open your terminal in the source app directory and use the Angular CLI to quickly create a new component. Run the following command: ng gc last name. As you can see, we have created a new component, and now what I want to do is to move the last name input from the app component into our new custom component. And in the app component, add our custom component instead of the last name input, which we just moved over. Now, if you look in your browser, you can see that nothing has changed really. But if you open your console, you can see that you have one new error. This one says that your form control needs to be inside of the form group. So with this move, we have detached this control, and now we need ControlValueAccessor to connect it with our form. Before we implement that, let's create a new form control and name it last name. Set the initial value to the empty string. Now, to connect this control to our input, change the attribute to form control, which is used for individual controls. This fixes the error from the console, but still, this component is detached from our form. To test that, in our app component, add a formControlName to our custom component and display the value of the last name control of the profile form control group. Now, if you type something in the last name input, you will see that nothing is happening in the UI. Again, because the custom component is not connected to our form. Let's fix that. In our custom component, let's implement this ControlValueAccessor interface and make sure to import it. We will also need onInit. Inside, in our ng onInit method, we are going to watch for last name input changes. Let's subscribe to this event. And using the onChange method, let's emit the values of our control. But we need to declare this method as private and give it a type of function. This method is defined in the registerOnChange method of the ControlValueAccessor interface, which receives a callback function. All you need to do is to assign this callback function to our private onChange method. Similarly, you need to register every touch of the component. So declare another private method called onTouched and also type of function. To define this method, we need to implement registerOnTouch method, which receives a callback function, and we just need to assign it to our onTouch method. The last method that we should implement is writeValue, But since our value is already saved in the last name control, we can leave this empty. In cases where you have, for example, star rating component, you would save the value of the rating in a custom variable here, but we don't need that. The last piece of the puzzle is to connect our control to formControlName of the parent form using providers. So define the providers array in the component decorator, and in the array add the object. The first property is provide, and here we add ControlValueAccessor, which is the access token for the ControlValueAccessor. The next property is useExisting, and here we provide our component. And the last property is multi, which we set to true. This allows multiple providers across the files to set the configuration to a common token. With this step, we have completed our custom component. And now if you go to your browser and type something in the last name input, you will see that it's connected and that its value is being displayed in the UI. The good thing about this implementation is that you can use a template-driven approach here as well. So in the app component, add a new property, last name. In the HTML file, add the ng model for two-way data binding, and make sure to move it outside of the form group. To see how it works, just place this property in the curly brackets. And now, if you test your input, you will get the same result again.
Well, that's all for this Angular video.
And thanks for stopping by.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Code with Sloba.
Thank you for watching the entire video. To see more Angular tutorials, click here.